Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective, with pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, October the 20th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and Andrew McInnis with you on this Wednesday slate, which features just two games, part of an NHL on TNT doubleheader tonight. Looking forward to it. We got the Boston Bruins, Philadelphia Flyers, followed by the St. Louis Blues and the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll break down both of those games in depth. But the nice thing about a shorter card with just two games on it, and we do this a lot on the Ice Guys shows where we have a shorter card, is we look back at last night and some of the action that took place on Tuesday. And on Twitter, well, the headlines to me, the greatest takeaways I have from what we saw in Tuesday NHL action is I highlighted three teams on Twitter last night after what I saw. Chicago Blackhawks, the Montreal Canadiens, the Winnipeg Jets, and specifically Connor Hellebuyck for the Winnipeg Jets. Ongoing battle for most disappointing, most miserable start, or at least first week of the season. It's ongoing between those three teams, in my opinion. You look at Chicago, and we were talking off the air about their issues. There's definitely some waning confidence with this group. They actually had the good energy, the push to play toward the New York Islanders in that opening period last night. Heavy edge in shots and in chances. The majority of the 10 high-danger scoring chances that the Blackhawks created last night came early in the game, first period. They had nothing to show for it, and it's almost like, we worked hard, we did all the right things, and we're scoreless after the first period. It's like that took a lot of the, wind out of the sails, if you will, out of the Blackhawks and out of the building, to be honest with you. The Islanders got some momentum, and really not only did the failure for Chicago to capitalize in the first period, but then the Islanders get the early second period goal for the first goal of the hockey game, Beauvillier, and then it was off and running from there for the Islanders. Then the defensive lapses that have been part of Chicago's game this year started to pile on in the last two periods, breakdowns left and right, giving even some of the chances the Islanders had where they didn't score last night. You're giving up the slot area with no contesting of that part of the ice from the Chicago defense. I mean, just ugly things that you just can't see happen. And the Chicago Blackhawks, for all the additions they made and all the excitement that was generated from trading for Seth Jones, who, by the way, has been a little bit more than disappointing in his own end to begin the year for the Blackhawks. Tyler Johnson, a Stanley Cup champ from Tampa Bay. Marc-Andre Fleury and net. For all these additions and improvements on paper that this team made, it's been a very frustrating start for them this year. The Montreal Canadiens, I don't know what to say about what I saw last night. I mean, that's not the 80s Oilers. That's not the 80s Islanders running into your building last night. That's the San Jose Sharks, who have been a pretty dreadful hockey team the last 2 years that are rebuilding, and you get absolutely thumped in the first period and you're out of the game essentially after 20 minutes last night. Lethargic. They didn't generate anything offensively in the first period. Where's the urgency? You're at home. You're facing a beatable team. You have 3 shots on goal in the first period. What the fuck is that? I mean, my gosh. I mean, let's pump it up. I know it's not the game 7 of a series, but you need some urgency when you haven't won a goddamn game yet. And I haven't seen it from Montreal so far this season. So a terrible start for Montreal and a brutal loss last night. I feel bad for Jake Allen. Can't fault him fully. There's bad errors in front of him with the puck. Couple lucky goals, too, for San Jose. Fortuitous bounces, deflections last night as well. But still, things aren't right with Montreal, and they need to correct it quickly. And the Winnipeg Jets, supposed to have one of the best goalies in the league in Connor Hellebuyck. He's had a really rough start for the Jets against Anaheim, San Jose, Minnesota last night. There's another team that's got confidence issues. You got a 5-3 lead on the road against Minnesota. Now, I know Minnesota's a tough team, good at home. They're never going to quit, and they've got quick strike offense now that can erase deficits and come back in games. So, you do credit Minnesota. It was a great win, comeback win for them. But boy, Winnipeg, it seems like the minute things go poorly for them, things go south, things go right off the rails. And that's a concern for Paul Maurice and his group right now. Wild tie it up 5-5 and then win in overtime 6-5. A hat trick for Joel Eriksson Ek. Heck of a game for him last night and carrying over what was really a good season for him last year offensively as well. So a good comeback for Minnesota, but just a terrible, brutal loss for the Winnipeg Jets. And here's three teams I think all of us, felt, these were pretty good hockey teams on paper coming into the year. The Jets, the Canadiens, the Blackhawks, and they're all off to a very difficult start. So that was the biggest takeaway I had from what we saw last night. Alex, the floor is yours. I know you're frustrated as a Blackhawks fan. I mean, everybody excited. Home opener. I know you mentioned it was the first home game on ESPN, I should say, for the Chicago Blackhawks in almost 20 years. And to have that kind of performance where, if not for a goal, with 20 seconds to go, you're basically getting blanked on home ice in your home opener. Disappointing, to say the least.
Absolutely. You come home after, a rough 3 games. You haven't won yet. You're back in front of your building, 22,000 large screaming fans. First home game on ESPN, televised in Chicago in 20 years. They played, a couple of games toward the end of that. But, Tony Esposito, honoring him, his passing over the summer. All the situations, said, okay, Chicago's going to come out guns blazing in the first period and get things rolling. In retrospect, they kind of did get things rolling as far as their offense, the tempo. They were playing much faster and getting off to a much better start than they did in the first 3 games. But that's not saying anything. When you look at, they gave up goals in the first 17 seconds in the night 1, and then they turn around another night and give up the first goal in 15 seconds. So, all right, yes, they end the period scoreless, but they should have had 3 goals at least in that first period. They had 7 high danger chances. They were able to catch Sorokin out of position, but couldn't put the puck in the back of the net. So now you go back in the locker room, and what do? They just completely fold like a cheap tent in a thunderstorm and do nothing in the second period. They do nothing in the third period. Like they get a goal with 20 seconds left that, just goes on the stat sheet, nothing else. This is disastrous right now. They've got 3 more home games coming up in this homestand. They've got Vancouver tomorrow. They've got, over the weekend, Detroit and Toronto. If they don't earn 3 points in these next 3 games, however way they do it, even if it's 3 overtime losses, they don't earn 3 points in the next 3 games, Jeremy Colliton needs to be out of a job. It's plain and simple as that. You have to shake things up, and he's the guy you have to shake at this point. You're not going to start trading off players, a week into the season. And obviously, upper management, they've got things all tied up the way they've got it tied up. The link that has to be pulled is Colliton at this point. Because what is he doing, that's essential right now? The offense isn't really rolling like it should be. The power play looks decent. They're moving things along. The penalty kill has actually been the strongest thing. They're actually taking care of business. But the 5-on-5 defense has been atrocious. The positioning for the defense has been atrocious. So if he's not bringing anything extra to the table, okay, yeah, Kane and Taves say they want to keep him around. But yes, they're loyal to all their coaches. They want to keep Q around when he needed to go. Kane was nearly in tears when Dennis Savard got fired, 3 games into his second season. So yes, they're loyal to their guys. They want to, be a cohesive unit, but it's not working. You got to get somebody else in there. You got to shake shit up. And the only way you do that is fire Jeremy.
Yeah, it's. I agree. I mean, I hate to always say fire the coach, but guess what? This is not last year where you're looking like you're about to rebuild, and the coach can hang around there and go through the growing pains of trying to build the team back up again. No, you don't go out and make the moves you made in the offseason for a stand pat rebuild kind of year. This is a performance year for the Chicago Blackhawks. They have to perform. Simple as that, right? With the moves they've made, and if they're not getting the performance they want early in the season from the team, your only option is to make a coaching change and hope that sparks something. This is a year where, you're not just treading water. You're thinking, you made these moves thinking we can be a playoff team, and if we get in, we can do damage in the playoffs. And right now, they've got a hell of a lot of work to do to get to that point, this Chicago team. And really, your only recourse, if these struggles continue, is make a coaching change at this point. Andrew, obviously, that's not going to be the case in Montreal. With the Canadiens, if the struggles continue. I mean, Dominic Ducharme's job security is clearly there, but nevertheless, and I know they've got their share of concerns. They're without their number 1 goalie, but that's not to excuse them completely for what's been a very disappointing first week.
Now, before I get into that, I want to ask you guys, what's the fastest we've seen a coach go? Do you guys remember? I mean, Alex, I get your frustration and I understand where that's coming from, but every year we see some teams have a bad start. You and I were talking about last night about how Buffalo has their good start again. I mean, how long? What's the shortest leash you think we could see? Because you're talking about them before their road trip. I mean, I'm curious what it's been because I mean I can remember stuff.
Dennis
but I can't
Savard,
remember
Dennis Savard got
exactly.
canned. It was literally. I'm about to look it up now officially.
Yeah.
It had to be like 3 or 4 games. Like it was very quick.
Yeah,
I
It's
spent
crazy going
4
through a
games.
full training
He
camp.
went 1-2-1 in 08-09. Now the writing was on the wall because they had hired Joe Quenneville as a scout very like late in the summer, like August like 3rd of that of 08. So 4 games in, they gave him the hook, and Quenneville was thrown in. Quenneville wasn't even an assistant coach; he was just taken from scouting to head coach.
I just looked it up too. The fastest firing in the NHL in history was actually Chicago Blackhawks, 1944-45. Paul Thompson. He gets
Really?
fired 1 game into the season. 1 game. That's it. A 4-0 loss to the Canadiens in the Cup final the year before. He was going into his 7th year. First game of the year, 11-5 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's out the door. Paul Thompson.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Nothing will top that. That's like going to be
nuts.
that's the history maker right there.
But I think, like Ian said, when you have expectations for a team and they're immediately just like and not even like losing right away, it's just like losing in different ways. That's kind of what. So I agree with Alex, and I don't think Alex is even saying that from a bias standpoint. So I just kind of want to piggyback off what he was saying because I don't want anyone to think because Alex is pretty real with his team, and I got to give you credit, man, because you've always been pretty real with them. But with the Canadiens, look, I'll say this: I thought they were going to be an over team this year. Because I was like, man, look at the talent we have right now. Look at and yes, I'm using the word we. They literally have scoring. They have some younger guys and stuff like that. And what I've always told people is that the Canadiens have 4 lines that can score, but no superstars. That's what I told people all last playoffs when nobody believed me they'd have success. And now it's almost become very apparent that they do have quote for quote kind of like goal scorers, and it's almost like changed their identity. Like you look at what look at the Leafs right now. I mentioned this on yesterday's show. Austin Matthews gets 8 shots and they lose the game. And many people are saying that it's too predictable where they're going. So my favorite part about the Habs for so many years was that nobody knew who the hell was going to be that guy. They were the weirdest team to bet anytime goal scorers because you didn't know who the hell was going to score for them, and now it's pressure on Suzuki. Hoffman's back in the lineup. Anderson, Drouin to do something. Caulfield, even he's been getting a lot of pressure even before the season started because of the great effort he had in the playoffs. So I think the goal scoring is the most shocking to me. The defense is not as shocking. I mean, some of the goals yesterday, the 2-on-1, the way they handled that was ridiculous. It looked like they gave up. Dvorak is known for being a great 2-way player. He actually drifted and started just floating back on defense. It looked like he didn't even care if a rebound happened off Jake Allen's pads, because that's what happened if you watch that replay. But I mean, the Timo Meier tip, the Erik Karlsson shot, those aren't really nice goals, guys, but that's how teams score. And I'm not giving taking any credit away from them. But to me, it's the goal scoring on their part, not as much the defense, because the defense, I think they'll tighten that up. They'll be able to work on that. Once Joel Edmondson gets back, it was announced his father has cancer and he's dealing with, some personal stuff. But I'm more worried about the defense than I am the offense, guys. And that might come to a shock from a lot of people because I think they'll get it together and I think they'll start winning old-fashioned Habs games, 2-1, 3-2 kind of thing. I'm more worried about their offense than their defense. But, interesting night last night in the NHL. I had a few of these scores just pulled up. I just wanted to say, after all the jokes I made yesterday about the Ducks, I mean, how about those Ducks? Didn't give up the whole way through. 6-5. Had some I had some fun on the show yesterday talking about that team. Panthers Lightning was a big game in the Sunshine State. Jimmy, he's not here, but we gotta pat the guy on the back. Got to give someone credit when it's due. Reverse puck line.
Yes.
For Jimmy Murphy. What an excellent hit. Big hit for him. Whenever he likes these reverse puck lines, I'm just like mind blown. And then the next day he's cashing a +2 something. So just hats off to Jimmy for that.
+275 on that with that Florida
crazy
puck line.
Crazy.
By the way, I don't want to just go nuts about the praise for Florida, but that was a game they deserved to win. They were better than Tampa. They controlled the flow. Yeah. They controlled the game most of the way. They had the puck in the Tampa end in front of Vasilevsky most of the game, defensively very sound. And when they did have the odd breakdown, Spencer Knight was there, and he was terrific in the game. The more I watch Florida, it's not hyperbole. It's not me, just prisoner of the moment, reacting to just 1 week. I thought this about Florida coming into the year before they even played a game. And just after 1 week and what I've seen, the improvement in the defense, the more depth they've got on the blue line, I'm seeing Anton Lundell and more of these young prospects of theirs continue to step up to help out Barkov and Huberdeau and Verhaeghe and all this great talent they already have. It's not hyperbole. They keep this up. This is not just a playoff team. This is not just a team that can win the Atlantic Division. This is a team that can contend for a Stanley Cup.
And let's not forget they were 19-1 to win the Cup just a few days ago. I think checked last night. There were 16-1 when I was doing the show with Gabe Renzi. So it's not going to get any better for them if they keep having success. What a night from Spencer Knight. I just wanted to mention the Sabres and Canucks game was interesting because the Canucks have been on the road. And I mentioned I love looking at these road spots, but I don't give two damns if you're on the road and you're allowing 5 goals to the Sabres, making this team look as good as they are. Alex and I were speaking together on Twitter last night about how, they haven't been shy to have good starts and then fall off a cliff, but credit has to be given. And all the reports I'm seeing about the Sabres right now is that it's kind of like with them, what I was just talking about with the Habs. Nobody knows what the hell they're going to do. Nobody has any expectations when they go play them. Nobody knows who their goal scorers are going to be, what their coaching tactics are going to be. And when you play a team that's a big mystery like that, sometimes you just don't know what to expect. And even though it's early in the season, all three of us can agree players get up for certain games more than others. And if you're going to play the Sabres, you might think it's an automatic win. Alex has his Blackhawks playing the Sabres here coming up in a little while. You say that right, Alex? And they're going to want to win that game. It's going to be, and the Sabres are going to be hungry, So as far as the Jets and Wild game goes, I was just surprised by the lack of defense, really. That was just a goal fest.
Yep. And Minnesota's going to be one of those teams where their totals are going to go in a bunch of different directions on a game in, game out basis. Some nights they're capable of playing a 3-1, but they've also now got offensive capabilities to play 6-5 and thrive and win those games too. So you're seeing that from Minnesota, and you're seeing for the Jets now continuing to struggle again with Hellebuck and their defense. I want to go back quickly to the Sabres, and then we'll turn the page to tonight. The Sabres under Don Granato deserves credit. He's had a disgruntled captain that's fed up with the team. Team's fed up with him. They're obviously going to part ways. It's a question of when, not if he gets traded, he gets dealt. You've got to somehow rally the troops and say, put all that behind you. Ignore all that. Forget about it. Focus on your job. Focus on practicing hard every day. Focus on getting better as a hockey player. Focus on doing the best you can to help this team. And what I see from Buffalo in 3 games, now eventually depth injuries are going to mount. It's amazing they've done this without Casey Middlestat too, who's supposed to be their number 1 center. But Don Granato's done an outstanding job. Really makes Ralph Kruger look even worse, to be honest, because Don Granato is like, I went back and looked. The Sabres are almost at 500 with their record since Don Granato, dating back to when he took over last season. They've been a competitive hockey team. They have not been blown out like they were game in and game out during the end of the Ralph Kruger era. He has instilled a work ethic. There's obviously positions up for grabs throughout the team, throughout the roster, and their work ethic has been there every single night for this Buffalo Sabres team. Now, again, eventually, the lack of depth of talent, particularly at some point, is going to catch up to them during the course of an 82-game season. But right now, you give them credit and you give Granato credit for making sure that they're putting out their best foot forward on the ice every night with that effort, with actually some solid defensive play. And look, they're getting some depth scoring. They're getting different guys to step up and find the back of the net for them right now as well on a nightly basis for the Buffalo Sabres. And, Don Granato deserves a hell of a amount of credit, and good on the Sabres for not going elsewhere in the offseason, saying, we have some interest in some other coaches that were out there in the offseason. And they said, you know what, we'll stick with Granato. We did see life from this team down the stretch when Granato took over. And so far, 3 wins to begin the season.
Well, I would give Granato some credit, but you also got, like you said, that, the counterpart of that. Ralph Kruger was trying to run this team as if he had the Soviet national team and they could just, stop everything on defense and maybe get lucky and get 1 or 2 goals because they didn't have the talent. Well, that clearly wasn't the case, so that's why he was shown the door. Granato's done a good job. Like I said, they've played 500 hockey going back to the parts of last year. But like I said, we got to take this with more salt than you put on a soft pretzel right now, because the fact is, this is a team that we always talk about American Thanksgiving being the barometer of like, okay, is this team, a contender or pretender? They were at first a couple years ago. They were in first place in the Atlantic. Okay, there was a game where they actually played against Tampa Bay. I think they lost 2-1, but that extra point, they were, had a 1-point lead over Tampa in the Atlantic. They went on to lose 35 of the last 50 and were nowhere to be seen in the playoff race. So 3-0 right now. Like I said, everyone's getting excited about it. I guess this finally something to get excited about in Buffalo for the first time in 20 years. Okay, whatever, but it's not going to last long. And when the bottom falls out, it's going to fall out pretty far. Probably not like Arizona far, but still far enough to where we'll forget about this 3-0 in the next, I'll say 6 or 7 weeks.
I'll say
and
this.
I always say, just like point spreads, it's a great opportunity to get a better price on them later in the year.
Yeah,
that's all I was going to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I think they are gonna have struggles. They're gonna fall off, I think, at some point. But so far, statistically, you're thinking, 3-0. This has got to be a fluke. Got to be a fluke. You look statistically, it's not. They have actually outplayed each of their 3 opponents so far this year. So far, the Canadiens, the Coyotes, and the Sabres. This team, through the first 3 games of the year, is holding a 32-19 advantage in high danger chances. 32 high danger chances for, 19 against. So far this season, the Buffalo Sabres. Expected goals, 1.54 to 0.66 in the game against Montreal. 1.57 to 0.85 in the game against Arizona. 2.42 to 1.51 in last night's win against Vancouver. So they have been, statistically, the stats add up that they've actually deserved these 3 wins. They've outplayed their opponent. Do we think it's going to continue indefinitely? No, but so far, no fluke to this 3-0 start. They've been full marks for it. They've deserved what they've gotten to this point, the Buffalo Sabres, in this surprising 3-0 start. We mentioned the Panthers, great win there. One last game I think that I wanted to mention before we wrap it up here. Which was it? Oh, yeah. Isn't it amazing how it tells you how bad it's gone for Chicago? They had a hard time denting Darcy Kemper in their first game of the year for the Colorado Avalanche. He played well against the Blackhawks. Been a struggle for Darcy and the defense of the Avs ever since, against St. Louis and Washington in back-to-back losses. So again, they missed Devon Taves. People are going to, you know what? You tell some Joe Blow hockey fan that doesn't really know the ins and outs and the nuances of teams and roster and personnel. You tell them, Devon Taves is out for the Colorado Avalanche. Yawns. They won't bat an eye. No interest. You go, who? What? Devon Taves? Huh? What? Huh? No, that is a big absence for the Colorado Avalanche. He's their best shutdown, stay-at-home defender on that blue line. And 2 games in a row now, Colorado's looked out of sorts in the back end. They're screwing up coverages in their own zone defensively. It's put Darcy Kemper in a tough spot, and they're going to have to shore that up. And it's probably going to start with Devon Taves coming back into the lineup. But disappointing result for them with Nathan McKinnon back. They fall short against Washington last night.
And check the stat sheet too. Guess who went -4 last night?
Yeah. I know.
And that's the thing. When I was harping on every show I did yesterday about fitness levels and game shape and all that stuff. And I'll admit, I was like, he's in good shape. He's ready to go. But you can't replicate game form. I've always said that. Look at Austin Matthews. I keep on talking about it, but he didn't play for the first couple of games. Comes back, has 8 shots, had the chance to score the game winner like 3 times. So sometimes you're just on the ice for a goal. It is what it is. But McKinnon going -4. That's an eye opener, guys. I mean, might look to bet on him anytime goal scorer the next game or 2. To be honest with you.
Yeah, he is one of those guys. Usually, he doesn't take too kindly to when he has a bad night or an off night. But look, he's coming off a COVID-19 positive test and having COVID-19, although he was asymptomatic.
No symptoms though.
No symptoms. But here's the thing, Andrew. If this is a guy that's coming back on the ice from COVID that's asymptomatic having a rough night like that, what if there's someone that's coming back from COVID that did have symptoms?
Yes.
How the hell are they going to play in that first game? It's definitely something you want to consider, I guess, when you see if this situation unfolds with other players later on in the year. They come back from COVID, but they had the symptoms. They had the
Mhm.
difficulties health-wise getting through it that maybe McKinnon didn't, and yet McKinnon still struggled his first game back. So something to keep an eye on and consider for future reference, no doubt, how players respond if they're coming back to the lineup, specifically from a COVID-19 positive case. All right, guys, let's turn our attention to tonight. It's a great TNT doubleheader. I'm looking forward to the games. I'm looking forward to seeing the studio crew again, to be honest with you, because I was so impressed with the job they did last week, how much fun it was. We'll go to the Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers, the first of the two games tonight on this TNT Wednesday night doubleheader. We've got Boston minus 135 road favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. And imagine my surprise and I looked at the schedule Thursday and I see, wait a minute, the Flyers aren't playing tomorrow night. So imagine my surprise on a non-back-to-back that we're seeing Martin Jones tonight in net for the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'll say this about Martin Jones. You won't see me backing a team that he's in net for until I see an improvement out of him. And we know last year was rough for him. The numbers don't lie. We're talking about 3.28 goals against average, 896 save percentage for Martin Jones last year. And the thing that really bothers me too, guys, about Martin Jones is that some of his worst performances were early at the very beginning of the year last year. He started the season 8 of his first 9 starts in between the pipes for San Jose, 3 goals allowed or more in 8 of his first 9 starts. So that's not good, which means he's obviously a guy that's not exactly in rhythm right away when he goes in net here for the last year it was San Jose, this year for the Flyers. So the fact that he didn't play well early in the year last year is a cause for concern. Give the Flyers credit for a bounce back game against Seattle last night, or Monday night, I should say. They thumped the Kraken in that game on Wednesday night. It was good to see. Look, their big guns came through for them, and it's going to fall on the shoulders of Claude Giroux, Travis Konechny, guys like who showed up big time offensively, of course, in that win on Monday night against Seattle, because there is a drop-off in terms of what they can get from the bottom 6 forwards. So you need Giroux, you need Konechny to step up for you offensively, which they were able to do in the win against Seattle. Derek Brassard, who's playing second-line center right now for Philadelphia, also had a goal against the Kraken. So that's what you need. You need those guys to produce for you. They did that on Monday night. Can they do it tonight? Boston. They played Dallas in their season opener on Saturday night, and the Bruins got the job done with a 3-1 victory. Jimmy Murphy has said it throughout the preseason, our preview shows, and anytime we've talked Boston, that he's very impressed with Jeremy Swayman, very impressed with him in terms of the upside that he's got, at least for now, being the number 1 goalie. Again, Tuukka Rask still figuring things out, but we don't know if he's coming back or when he's coming back or anything right now for him. So this is Jeremy Swayman's net right now for the Boston Bruins. And he obviously had a very solid first outing. And he's played pretty well, really, since we started seeing him on a fairly regular basis last year for the Boston Bruins. So, it definitely feels like this should be an advantage here, certainly goaltending-wise for Boston going into this game. So what I've done is I have not really a single big bet tonight on this 2-game card. It's really a series of smaller bets, and I have 3 smaller bets here. Got a little of Boston minus 135. We have a little of Boston team total over 3.5, which is at plus 135, in a lot of spots. That's a really good number with that Bruins team total, considering we're talking about a goalie in Martin Jones who's given up 3 or more in 8 of his first 9 starts last year. A slow starter, a guy that didn't have a good year last year. So he got a good chance to get to 4 if he's given up 3 or more, 8 of his first 9 last year. So I think Boston team total over 3.5 plus 135 is a good price. I'm also a small bet too on the full game over 5.5 as well, minus 120, because I do think the Flyers got their offense rolling a little bit the other night. It has a chance maybe to continue, even though Boston was pretty sturdy defensively. Swayman played good against Dallas. We'll see if they can do it now on the road. That's going to be the question. So 3 different bets there. Bruins money line, Bruins team total, full game over for me. Alex, what do you think here? Bruins Flyers.
Yeah, so Martin Jones is scheduled to stand in front of the net tonight for Philly. I'm going to say that again. Martin Jones is scheduled to stand in front of the net tonight for Philly. Now, whether he actually stands there and plays goal is a completely different story because we have not seen him do that much lately. As you've mentioned and alluded to, this guy is just not anywhere close to where he was when he took San Jose to a cup final or even his backup days in LA. This guy just seems to be playing his way toward Russia at some point, it seems like. He looked terrible in the preseason where he gave up some soft goals. And I just don't see where this is a rested Boston team, looking to start off hot on the road. We see, these two teams are always tightly contested. And more often than not, we see a lot of goals scored. So full game over would be a lean. But the two things I love more would be the first period over, 1.5 minus $1.20, and especially that Boston team total over 3.5 at plus 135. Martin Jones's numbers against Boston, 1-3-2 with a 4.09 goals against and an 867 save percentage and 7 starts. So he hasn't played well against anybody, but he's done particularly poor against the Bees. So I'm definitely looking at anything Boston here as far as the over goes. Would even maybe sprinkle a little bit on Boston regulation plus 110.
All right, there we go. That's kind of like me. We got a couple of smaller, we got multiple bets on the game, but we're keeping them smaller. Usually that's what I do. When it's one bet on a game, I'll step up the size of it. When it's multiple bets on the same game, I don't want, 1-2 unit plays, 3 on the same game. So I limit the exposure. I lower the unit amounts when I'm playing multiple bets on the same game. And that's essentially what I've done here with this Bruins Flyers game. Andrew, what's your thoughts, Boston and Philly?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's just hilarious because everybody's kind of having their jab at Jones. You guys both in your own way had your own chirps towards him, and everybody on Twitter is getting after him. This is a 31-year-old against a 22-year-old in nets, and I think it really goes to show the age, it means nothing. It really does. It's just like this is honestly a sport for the average age is your mid-20s, mid to late 20s right now, So, I'm on the Bruins money line. I'm just going to leave it at that. I definitely don't argue with any of the things you guys are saying there. I couldn't talk anybody off a team total. One thing I'll say about the Bruins, and it was kind of brought to my attention earlier today, and I had a good laugh at it, but it was very serious as well, where this is a team that could have, and I'm half joking, of course, but this is a team that could have like so many star players on them. You could bring McDavid and Crosby onto this team, and somehow they would end up just winning games 3-1 still. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the Bruins' identity is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they just figured out the way they play a pack mentality type of hockey, and they love to swarm the puck. I mean, they make life an absolute hell for their opponent. And one thing I thought when I looked at the line combinations earlier today, looking at the third line, DeBrusk, Hala, and Foligno. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to play against that line. I think a lot of NHL teams would love to have that as their third line, and Hall, Coyle, Smith, that second line, that's an underrated second line, I would say. So on top of the quote-for-quote perfection line with Pasta, Berge, and Marchand, I think that the bottom two after that are pretty solid. So Philly is a team that I've said I think they have depth issues. And when you get alerts on your phone or when you're watching games, and you're seeing Philly score goals, I guarantee you it's a couple of the guys doing it most nights. But with Boston, I feel like, we could see tonight, Marchand and Bergeron could both not even have a point tonight, and this Bruins team could win the game 3-2. So that's what I like about this matchup. I think Philadelphia is a team I'll be betting against in spots like this quite a bit. Philly will be a team that I'll bet on at underdog positions or at near pick'em prices. But with a price like this here, I just think it's too short for Boston. And one thing I always say, when you have a team that trends towards the under, playing a team that trends towards the over, many people want to go towards the over team. But the old-fashioned saying, defense wins championships, defense wins games, all go towards a team that trends towards the under, and that's the Bruins.
All right, like in Boston here, minus 135, Andrew, in this one. And it doesn't help, by the way. I've just looked it up. Martin Jones, his worst goals against of any team is against Boston for him. So there you go. 4.09 goals against, 867 save percentage. Pretty ugly stuff here from Martin Jones. Now, after all this hate we've thrown his way, watch 42 saves shutout, 3-0 Flyers tonight. So,
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you guys. I was going to say,
yeah.
Is tonight a shot prop night against them? Because, I had a buddy that was looking at and asking me about Hart props last time out. He was betting them, and he was messaging me saying, "Man, I needed like one more shot against Hart for him to get over his save prop. Do we bet the Martin Jones save prop tonight? Is he going to get peppered? Because the Bruins, the thing is, they maintain possession, but they don't pepper goalies. You know what I mean?
Right. I would worry about that. Like you said, that they're not that kind. That's not that kind of style of offense. And also, at some point, it's going to have to click with the Flyers and say, hey, we're going to have to play a lot better defensively in front of Jones. We can't let him be the guy making all the big saves, because he's not going to make the big saves. So I think the defense is going to tighten up in more Jones starts as we move forward. So he'll give up goals, but the chances won't be as clean moving forward. If he struggles, things are going to get tighter for Philly on that blue line.
Yeah, and I think there's teams that have tried. San Jose tried to play this way at times, and I know Bugner, especially there, preached that to San Jose, that we got to play better team defense and help Martin Jones out. And yet still, they'd give up only 3 or 4 chances, and 2 or 3 of them are in the back of the net still. So that's the problem you run into. Even if you give up less chances, much lesser number of chances, Martin Jones is still giving up a lot of goals in those fewer chances that he's seeing.
And I'll give you guys a circle point for live betting within like goal to score next. If you see, because this tends to be a physical battle with these two teams, Boston and Philly, they like to throw the body around. If you see a Philly player, especially a defenseman, go into the penalty box for a Boston power play, try to grab Boston to score that goal as quick as you can.
Yeah, I'm curious why you're on the over for the game and the team total for the Bruins. I'm not trying to question your wagers. I'm just curious, why not just go bigger on the Bruins team total? Is it almost like a half hedge or like a half kind of safety bet in case the Flyers win? Is that kind of more or less what it is?
Yeah, not so much that. It's that it was 5.5. If the full game total was 6, I wouldn't have bet it at 6. A 5.5, yeah, I will. But I do like the team total, I think, more than anything tonight with the Bruins and the Flyers. The team total, I prefer that than the full game. Mm-hmm. But I thought the full game that it was 5.5. Was definitely worth a look. And then I saw that Jones has given up 3+ 8 of his first 9 starts last year.
So let's get you a 4-2 win then.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great.
I was leaning towards the under, honestly, personally, but then hearing you say that, I'm like, you know what? They're gonna light him up, and I hope you get the 4-2. So
yeah, I hope so too. Ivan Provorov, Ryan Ellis, Travis Sanheim, Rasmus Ristolainen, Keith Yandel, and Justin Braun is the defensive group for the Flyers tonight. So that is what
Alex's reaction.
Yeah. So that's Jarek was asking who the pairings are. So Ristolainen's with Sanheim is on the second. I'm not a big Ristolainen fan. He takes bad penalties, very undisciplined at times. I'm gonna have to see what he does here tonight coming back. I'm not like, wow, Ristolainen's back. Flyers, look out now. No. I find he's very undisciplined at times. We'll see if he can rein that in tonight. All right, the second game, St. Louis Blues, Vegas Golden Knights. We've got Vegas -120, -130 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. And you got to know ahead of time, I'm sure, with the pattern that I've had with St. Louis Blues games, the last couple, the Colorado game Saturday, the Arizona game on Monday. I'm going right back to the overwell with this team. 5.5 tonight, St. Louis and Vegas. Even with Vegas, obviously, without some key artillery, there's no question. We're talking about a Vegas team that has unfortunately suffered a very vicious hand from the injury gods, if you will, this year. Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone, 2 of their best, if not their 2 best forwards right there, out indefinitely for this hockey team. And it's going to be up on other guys to step up. And the problem I've had with Vegas last year, especially, not so much 2 years ago, but last year, the drop-off in offensive production from the bottom 6 was very, very steep, the drop-off. And what are you going to get from them tonight? You know, you need Will Carrier, Brett Howden, Jake Leschyshyn, on the fourth line. What are you going to get from them? Can Nolan Patrick show finally that he's, was a first-round pick, at one time with the Philadelphia Flyers? He's going to have to do more, playing on the third line, centering that unit with Keegan Colasar and Peyton Krebs. Can you get something offensively from them is the question mark. Marchessault, Carlson, and Smith is going to be their top line, and I like them, but they're going to have to step it up. They're going to have to be the bell cow. They're going to have to be the ones that carry this team now offensively. Second line, Dodanov's a mystery to me. 2 years ago with Florida, excellent. Ottawa last year, big drop-off in his production. There's a reason Ottawa didn't keep him. They didn't get the season they hoped for from Evgeny Dodonov last year, but now it's up to him to rediscover that offensive. He's got talent. He's got a very good release. We need to see it now. You're down Pacioretty and Stone. You're down with two of your best forwards. This is the time, to show it. It's like that Sheldon Keefe speech in the Amazon Prime documentary. This is the time. You don't save it for anything. This is the time. This is the time. We got to see it right now from Dodonov here for the Vegas Golden Knights. And he's going to play with, look, he's got potential because he's going to play with Chandler Stevenson. And I've loved Chandler Stevenson's game. If not for him, things would be a lot worse for the Golden Knights. You look at Stevenson so far through the first few games of the year for the Golden Knights. First 2 games, he's got 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points in 2 games, 3 shots on goal. You talk about player props from the Vegas standpoint that I'm interested in tonight. Chandler Stevenson would be that player. Goal scorer prop, shots on goal. If your book offers points, player points, I wouldn't talk you out of that. I definitely think this is a situation where Chandler Stevenson, and he's shown the ability to rise up, and fill a void when there's key players out. So I think Chandler Stevenson's that guy for Vegas. And even with the key guys out, like I said, Pacioretty and Stone, the Blues defense ain't right so far this year. You look at the first 2 games, Colorado, they struggled in their own end. Arizona, if not for a timeout from Berube Monday night, they were that close to letting Arizona right back into that hockey game. Remember, they got up 6-2. Arizona trimmed the lead to 6-4. Sloppy play with the puck. And again, I've said it last game we talked about St. Louis on Monday's show. Binnington, his save percentage and his goals against, they're both going down. The goals against, I should say, is going up. The save percentage is going down. He's fighting it a little bit. He is not the Binnington that we remember winning the cup a few years ago. So to me, and I've said it all year, I think they're a better offensive team, the Blues, and they're a little bit worse defensively. They will miss Buchnevich, unfortunately. 2-game suspension for him for an incident that took place Monday night against Arizona. It does hurt, and he's been one of the big off-season offensive additions to this Blues team. But I've been impressed with what I've seen from Robert Thomas. I've been impressed with David Perron, who's had an outstanding start to the year, playing in a top-line role with O'Reilly and with Brandon Saad. It's been a good start for him. 2 goals already in the first couple of games for the Blues. Jordan Kyrou, man, how do you not bet him to score a goal right now? What a show he put on the other night. 4 points, 2 assists. There's 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in the win against Arizona the other night, and 6 points overall this year, and 5 shots on goal. That's the guy right now. Kyrou for St. Louis. I mean, goal scorer prop, shots on goal. If you can find points, I wouldn't argue with that. And look, I talked about St. Louis's defensive struggles. How about Vegas? They've kind of looked out of sorts on the back end. And Robin Lehner, he's got to play better. He has not played at his absolute best yet this year for the Golden Knights. So put it all together, totals 5.5, reasonable enough that I think we can surpass that. Even with, 2 of your best scorers out for Vegas, this is where I expect Stevenson, hopefully Dodonov, hopefully, Nolan Patrick can give you a little something, and you get a big night from Marchessault, Smith, and Carlson. And then on the flip side, look, St. Louis is scoring goals, and I don't know if that's going to stop tonight against this Vegas team, which has actually struggled more than you would think, keeping it out of their own net. So give me over 5.5 here. St. Louis, Vegas. We've been 2-0 betting St. Louis overs. It was a theme for me coming into the year with the Blues. We're going to bet some overs with this team because the totals are going to be 5.5. They're going to be better offensively, worse defensively. Not sure about Binnington, and it's worked to perfection so far through 2 games. Let's see if we can make it the third time the charm here. Over 5.5. St. Louis and Vegas. Alex, what do you think here? Blues, Golden Knights.
Yeah, I've been riding the Blues first period over train so far, just like you have with the full game over. And that's what I'm going to go with here. I don't trust this Vegas team to try to, chip in with a bunch of offense, even though as bad as the defense has been and the goaltending has been for the Blues. But they're just missing a lot right now. And, it's just a matter of time before we figure out what the Stone injury is. They still have him listed as day-to-day. I think it's going to be something way worse. They said he was talking to doctors the last couple of days, getting second opinions. So that sounds like surgery to me. So that's something to keep an eye on, obviously. Tuck being out as well, that's a big loss. So I just like the first period over here. I think we could see either Blues come out blazing and get a couple, or we could even see, like I said, that shakiness early from the top line scoring for Vegas. But I trust that they'll get 2 goals here, and then who knows, maybe we see things tighten up a bit and we could jump in on a live under if you see a number of 8.5 or 9, something, astronomically high. But I think we're going to see some scoring early. And if the teams do figure it out, we can adjust. But if not, we just, take our money and run in the first 20 minutes.
All right, like in the first period over here, St. Louis, Vegas. For,
it's like Kyrou to score plus 450.
Yeah, I mean, it's he's getting the shots, he's getting the chances. I mean, just dirty dangles. And by the way, one of the worst and most embarrassing displays of defense I've ever seen in my life on that sixth goal, that beautiful goal he scored, highlight reel, one of the best goals scored this year, but bad highlight for Shane Gostisbehere. His nickname's the Ghost. He's a ghost in his own end defending the front of the net. That's where he's a ghost. He was absolutely pathetic in that play. Did you look any worse? Flailing down, swinging your stick, he goes right around you, and then you miss him on the other chance you had to get him, and he just walks right around you, dipsy-do, right to the net. Dancing and dangling, as Darren Pang said on the broadcast Monday night after Jordan Kyrou scored that goal. Hell of a goal, but awful defense, embarrassing. That's why Gostisbehere's not in Philly anymore. He couldn't defend. I mean, he's a good puck mover. He can play the power play. He has got a good shot, good offensive instincts, but none on the defensive end, unfortunately. Andrew, what do you think here, St. Louis, Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, you guys touched on a lot of it. A couple funny things. I mean, I'll talk about Binnington. You guys remember that interview he had where he was being all cocky and someone said, "Do you ever get nervous?" And he said, "Do I look nervous?" Well, he should be nervous now because he's letting in some goals. And even though his team's scoring goals, it's not going to last forever. So maybe he should, ever since that ring he won, maybe he should, take away a little bit of that cockiness and get back to having that chip on his shoulder. And Buchnevich, isn't he trying to channel his inner Zinedine Zidane, trying to get some more headbutts into the NHL? I think we've had 2 headbutting penalties in the past couple of days here.
I'm not the biggest soccer fan, and I remember that incident. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so look, I'm on the team total over for the St. Louis Blues here. I got it at, I think, minus 125 is what I locked it in as. And, I hope that this game has a fast start, and I hope that you guys can both hit your overs. And I agree that I think that a huge factor in the first period over being a good play, to Alex's point, I think is because Vegas has to prove they can play without those 2 guys. And you're mentioning Ian, the other guys, the supporting cast, and the guys around him. And we know how well they play at T-Mobile. We know it's different there. It's been very cliche to talk about it, but they do play better at home. So I feel like we actually could get an in-game under opportunity on this game. And I say this, Ian, thinking that this game could fully go over and be one of those games where in the middle of the second period, we're seeing like a 4-3 game, and all of a sudden we're looking at an under or something like that, 4-2 game. So I think this game is going to have a lot of goals fast, and then it might slow down. 2.5 out of team total is just nice. It's cheap. It's minus 125 here for the Blues. I'm kind of taking the Vegas Golden Knights out of the equation here. Leonard plays well at home, but let's be honest, the Blues have an extreme attack right now, and I don't think the defense for Vegas has been all that impressive. So we'll see what they can do without their 2 top guys, and I'll just root for 3 goals for Blues tonight.
Yeah, I definitely. I think St. Louis will get theirs. I think Vegas can score too, and here's why. Even without Pacioretty and Stone, if this was playing without those guys for the first time on the road, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But they get this game at T-Mobile, at home. You know what the crowd's going to be like. It's going to be loud. It's going to be great environment as always. That revs up the adrenaline, I think, for your Chandler Stevensons and your Peyton Krebs and Nolan Patrick and some of these depth forwards that, hey, and that first game, too, without the key players. I've said about that philosophy, that thought process in the NBA, and I believe in that in the NHL as well. The first game without key players in the lineup, everybody pulls up the bootstraps. Everybody does a little bit more, and they worked over. That's why I'm off the St. Louis money line tonight. I did 2 satisfying wins in a row against Colorado and Arizona. And I think for this first game without Pacioretty and Stone, especially playing at home and off a loss, which, by the way, Vegas is 10-2 in their last 12 home games off a road loss. And that's the spot they're in coming into tonight. So that's not something I'm rushing to go against. That's why I'm not on St. Louis money line tonight from a side perspective. That's why I'm just sticking with over 5.5 here in this game, because I do think being at home, hearing that crowd, it's going to fuel these guys, and knowing Pacioretty and Stone are out. And really, like I say, there's something to that. First game without the key players, and you see everybody step up and get the job done. And then similarly, first game when you get the key player or the key players back, everybody says bet on that team, and it doesn't always work that way. watch when they get one of these two guys or both of these guys back. The first game, Vegas will be flat because changes in the lineup. Everybody relaxes. Oh, we got Pacioretty back. Oh, we got Stone back. Watch them be a bet against that night, when they get those guys back. Look at Colorado last night. Nathan McKinnon back. Everybody thinking, Colorado's going to be great. Nope, didn't work out. Sometimes everybody relaxes. They go, when the big star comes back, and it doesn't, and that leads to failure in terms of success that first game. So keep an eye on that. But for tonight, I expect Vegas to, bear down, everybody steps up a little bit back home, off a loss, first game without Pacioretty and Stone. So that's why I do think they can find the back of the net tonight as well. Great stuff from Alex and Andrew. And I love these 2-game cards because, as you see, we can dissect it a lot more, have more time to do that. So great stuff. As we look at the 2-game Wednesday NHL card. Before we get to best bets to wrap up the show, we want to remind you, of course, of our great sportsbook partners here at the Ice Guys and the Hockey Podcast Network, talking, of course, about DraftKings, which is now the official sports betting partner of both the NFL and the NHL. New customers, you can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game. And if you do this weekend, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, if you pull that off. Very simple. Now, if you're in a state where there is no DraftKings Sportsbook, or you're in Canada where there is no DraftKings Sportsbook, you can still play with new customers. Still get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with your first deposit. And everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game this Sunday, and you win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partners of both the NFL and NHL. You must be 21 years of age or older in valid DraftKings Sportsbook states only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up for an account and use the promo code THPN. All right, it is that time, guys. Best bet. 2 games to choose from. Alex B. Smith, best bet for tonight.
We'll go with the late night game, St. Louis and Vegas. First period over -1.5, or -$1.20, I should say, on the goal and a half. Like I said, this is the Blues defense. They got to figure things out. And Vegas, like I said, they're very top heavy now. They pretty much only have one line that we can at least remotely consistently, feel like they can score on a given night. So let's just look for 2 in the first period there with St. Louis and Vegas.
All right, there you go. St. Louis and Vegas over 1.5. First period, best bet for Alex B. Smith. Andrew McInnis, best bet for tonight.
I'll go with the Bruins. I'll go with the Bruins on the money line for tonight. I think it's a great spot. I mean, we're all having our fun at Marty Jones, but there's other reasons why I like the Bruins besides just Marty Jones. And Marty Jones is just kind of the icing on the top of the cake. So give me the Bruins on the money line. One more thing I wanted to mention. We're always talking about the expansion of different sports books. Of course, we have our proud partners with DraftKings. If you can find a prop that has power play goals tonight, you can get over 1.5 power play goals. My book is offering +120 for St. Louis Blues and Vegas Golden Knights game. I think the power play is crucial between these two teams. I think we see a lot of physicality with both these two teams. So I have that locked in. Also, I never usually do this, but since I was kind of talking about it, I wanted to check out what the prices would be on this. St. Louis Blues 4-2 win, exact score is plus 2,150. So 21-1 odds here. So I'm looking at that. Might lock in 4-3 for St. Louis just kind of for fun, but just wanted to say it on the show. I have bet that while I discussed it. So we'll see what happens.
By the way, DraftKings, player points, power play points for
Sweet.
Players. They've got all of that there. So
exact score there as well.
Yep.
And that's on me. I got to check that out, guys. That's on me.
Yeah, exactly, Andrew. Now that Andrew's part of the Ice Guys family, we got to bring him into the DraftKings realm. Exactly right. But no, the options are plentiful. No question about it for NHL betting with DraftKings. Correct score, goal score props, of course, shots on goal props. But I like that they have the correct score, of course. And you've also got, certain specials, by the way, in these two. I'll mention the specials because they're interesting. You can bet Charlie McAvoy or Ryan Ellis, two blue liners on the Bruins to score a goal. Only one of them has to score, and it's plus 350. So it's very interesting, unique bets exclusive.
They love to entice you. That's what they're trying to do. That all these special bets, they're trying to get people involved. But
that's right. Different.
I want to say I'm not going to be here tomorrow, to everybody, but that's just because it was planned out a while before I came back with the Ice Guys. I'm getting a 8-week-old puppy, golden retriever. Super excited, so I'm traveling to go pick him up, and hopefully on Friday I'll bring him onto the show to show you guys the new pup.
Yep. Welcome to life of walking them every day and cleaning up after them every day.
You have to get them an Ice Guys dog bandana. We have those at store that what's our store name now? We got a new one. It's Ice Guys at mystore.shop.com.
There you go. Check it out. I mean, we got great stuff. There's fall and winters here. Pick up, fall and winter clothing too. That's there. There's hats. There's obviously t-shirts, that are available, even though I know it's getting colder in the northeast parts, but bandanas, coffee mug, the Ice Guy. I mean, you could go on down the list. Tons of great Ice Guys merch. So check out the store for sure. No question about that. There's a lot of good options there. And by the way, St. Louis, Vegas, I'll mention it. Blues and Golden Knights to both score a goal in first period. It's like both teams to score, like a soccer type bet in the first period, plus 170. So there you go. They offer that at DraftKings as well. So, Vegas Misfits, as they're calling them. Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson, and Riley Smith, the top line to combine for 2 or more goals tonight, plus 330.
That's horrible odds. That's horrible odds.
DraftKings.
No, and I was explaining that Jared Rubel mentioned in the chat about if they had props for shorthanded goals. I go, yeah, if they did, it would be plus 3,000 when it realistically should be like plus 12,500. So
probabilities. Make sure you keep those in mind. No question. But we wish Andrew the best with his new dog, new addition to the household. Dogs bring a lot of joy in your life. No question about that. So great stuff. That'll wrap up this edition of the show. We thank everyone for tuning in live on YouTube. And a reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week on YouTube, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, make sure you download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can find the Ice Guys podcast on all those platforms. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.